life is messy and unpredictable.
Being able to find joy in the weeds of life is so important. I'm Beth.
And I'm Kim, and we are so glad you've joined us as we figure out how to hold joy in one hand and struggle in the other.
Welcome to Joy in the Weeds. We've got to shorten the length of that intro.
At the end, it's so quiet for so long. It's
so
like
quiet.
I was listening. I was like, "Are they going to come on?"
That actually happened to me one of the time. We don't listen to our own podcast very often, which we probably should. But anyway, I was doing that one day in the car. I was like, "Ooh, that's too long." And then today it struck me again.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll have to try to get that fixed. But hello,
It's been a long time.
It's been forever. We're kind of no, we're not kind of. We are definitely behind, and we've missed a couple.
Yeah, very behind.
And reason for that is
Life.
Too
Really,
much.
just life. Too much. Too many things to take care of.
But that is so, I think the first week we missed, I was thinking, because I was wondering, because you were really overwhelmed that week.
Yes, I was extremely. I had so much going
on. And I was just thinking, well, should I just do something on my own? And, because I was feeling real sort of the pressure of deadline, and getting done. And then I was like, no, this is exactly the deadline that we've put is kind of a self-imposed deadline, and it's just life. And I just hope everyone can understand.
Yeah, I'll often tell my clients, I don't charge them if they don't come, as long as they let me know. And they can let me know at the time that they're supposed to be there. And that's fine, as long as I know.
Yeah.
Because I understand life. Life happens, and sometimes you just I don't do the 24-hour thing. Many doctors' offices and therapy offices say, we have to know 24 hours or we're going to charge you $25. And I'm like, just text me, because I got plenty I can do. I can file insurance if I have to. I mean, I can do anything, or I can just, watch TikTok and take a break for 40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, also, it's just when it's a lot and it's overwhelming. I mean, even if it's not bad things.
Yeah.
It's like, it can just be too much. And it's like, it's like we needed a little weeding to happen.
Yes. Yeah. And then last weekend, I think was that like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? I don't even know when it was. But then last weekend, there was because I was gone. I left on Thursday, to go to Orlando to watch my mom in a Risen play, which was really fun.
That's so cool.
So there was no time to record, because I can't record. I personally can't record during the week, because that's when I work. So.
Well, in all honesty, too, I've made it more complicated, because we've always had that we had Mondays and Fridays to record. And I'm now watching my little granddaughter on Mondays, and
which is important.
Which is so important.
And I'm sorry, all our listeners, but that sweet little one is a whole lot more important than y'all.
I had to tell you too. Like, just the other day, I was sitting there watching her or holding her. She was sleeping, and she'd been a little bit sick and feeling a little under the weather or whatever, and so she was particularly cuddly.
That's so great.
I was just holding her, and she was sleeping, and she slept a long time that day. She slept 2 naps. They were almost 2 hours, but she just wanted to be held, and I just held her.
Sure.
And
that's what grandmas are for.
Yeah. And at one point I'm sitting there, and I'm halfway through hour number 3 total. I mean, they weren't together, but you know what I'm saying? Like an hour into the second nap. And I just was overwhelmed with the joy of realizing this opportunity that I have.
Yeah.
And thankful for that. So it's just made our schedules more complicated, and we're going to try to figure out a way to make sure we keep recording. But anyway, we just had a couple weeks. So,
Yep.
but we're excited to be back.
We are excited to be back.
I'm so excited to see your face, Kim.
You're so
Oh my
funny.
word, I've missed you.
You're so funny.
Ugh.
Oh
We
my
don't see
goodness.
each other enough outside of this,
Yeah,
and
we
we
live
need
far
to.
away from each other.
We
Like, we
do.
live on opposite ends of the state.
I know, but I wish we had time to, like, have,
Well, yeah.
FaceTime, screen time just
Yeah.
for fun, but we
Well,
don't.
we have talked about taking another road trip.
Yeah, and we need to do that.
No, I don't know when.
As soon as, it'll be after August when little Charlie turns 1.
Oh, it'll have to be. Yeah.
She goes off to her little school, so
Yeah.
anyway, all right, so we wanted today to talk about I think we've actually tackled this subject before, so I kind of feel a little silly us doing it again, but I feel the need, so we're gonna do it anyway. But that is sort of the idea of quiet. And I texted Kim last night about this.
So,
We
yes. So let me can let me
Yes,
just
go ahead.
let me, so you text me, can we talk? I'm at a Chris Tomlin concert. Can we talk about the joy of quiet? Okay, so
Mm.
I was recently at a Chris Tomlin concert a couple
Mm.
months ago. Um, so I'm very curious as to where that came from. Not that he's bad. I mean, it was a great concert. I preferred Mercy Me to Chris Tomlin, but that's okay. Um, so like,
The
how did that come about? Give me all the details.
So, it's been a weekend. I found out we had the golf tournament on Friday,
Mhm.
and we are Thursday night or early Friday morning, I get a text from my daughter saying, "Please pray for me. I'm
Oh,
at the, emergency vet
right.
hospital with little
Yes.
Belle. She's
Yes.
breathing heavily."
Yeah.
Um,
Le
and
tell people who Belle is.
Belle is her little puppy,
Yeah, because
and Belle, I should have a picture here to show you, but Belle is just the cutest thing. I
yeah,
may pull one up. She's just the cutest thing on the face of the earth.
yeah.
And the way Anna got her, Anna needed she already had a little dog, Ella, who she still
Mhm.
has. And Ella was is I said to Anna this morning, I think Ella is autistic.
Oh,
Uh, I don't know if a dog can be autistic.
no, I've actually had another client I had a client of mine say the same thing about her dog.
Really?
I think the dog is autistic, yeah.
Well, I really she fits that.
That's hilarious.
And so she just like she'll come up to be cuddled, and then if you touch her, she'll
Mhm,
like she
mhm,
just doesn't want it.
mhm.
Um and she is completely unemotionally like she just has it's like she and I know it's silly talking about that with the dog, but she's like she has no emotion. Anyway, it's really fascinating. So, but she would constantly want to play. And when she was young, she would actually play ball by herself, which
Oh,
I'd never seen before. We have her on video. She would take the ball and basically toss it up in the air by herself and then chase after it
and then
and
go
then
get it.
go get it and then go and do it
That's
again. And
hilarious.
she'd just do that. But but she would prefer for someone to throw her the ball and play with her constantly, but at a distance. Like she's kind of interesting. So Anna decided it was exhausting, this constant ask to play. And so Anna thought, well, maybe if she had another dog, a sibling, that would be good. So, and Anna goes and gets Belle, and Belle had lots of, she had been severely abused when Anna got her.
Mm.
She couldn't walk, like she wouldn't walk with a leash or
Mm.
really walk at all. Anna take her outside and she just crouch. Like she was just
Oh,
terrified of the
sweet.
world.
Oh, poor
And
baby.
any noise, she would just be terrified. She was drenched in pee when Anna picked her up. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, anyway, and she got her from a kill shelter. And so it was, they weren't doing
bless
much
stars.
they didn't bathe her, those kind of things. So she was had a lot of issues. However, as soon as she figured out she was being loved and not
Hmm.
abused anymore, she had this little tail that was like a white flag and it would just fly. And every time, Anna comes around, that little tail would just go 90 miles an hour. And Anna would get home and sit down in a chair or on the couch. And Belle just jumps up on top of her, and then buries her head in Anna's neck. I mean, just
Oh.
the cuddle bug of all cuddle bugs. However, could care less about playing with Ella. So she was worthless for the whole point of having her. But
Mhm.
what Anna got in adopting Belle was something that was super important to Anna, which was um a cuddle companion,
Mhm, mhm,
which is Anna is a kinesthetic, like she just
mhm,
personal
mhm,
touch, and she's single, so she's
mhm,
on her own. And
mhm.
anyway, here is, I don't know if
Oh,
I'm trying to
wow.
get there you go.
We got it.
Here's little
Sweetie.
Belle. But
Aw.
anyway, she's just absolutely the cutest thing on face of the earth. So Anna asked us to pray for her. We go off. We talked to her um, on the way to the golf tournament, and she was a wreck. And she said that they told her that Belle was having heart failure. And
Mm,
so anyway, she was then coming home with medication that they were hoping was going to help relieve some of the fluid from her lungs so that she could breathe and stuff again. And
mhm.
anyway, well, by the time we got done with the golf tournament, we found out she had gone and had to go and have her put down because she was just in agony, and they couldn't, she couldn't get relief. And Anna knows, as a nurse, like she could see the
Yeah,
signs and knew
yeah,
what was going on.
yeah.
So Friday, that happens.
Mm,
I had to go do some things over at Mount Pisgah Academy, helping out for alumni weekend. And when I got home, Anna left Greenville and came directly to our house with
good,
Ella so that she wouldn't be going home alone.
good,
And
good.
Chris took off work. And so when
Oh,
I got home, they were there. Anyway, so we spent some time with her. And then Sabbath morning, we just spent some time together, Chris and I, just resting and some quiet.
mhm,
And I think I was much more emotionally sad than I expected with
mhm.
Belle dying. It just, I think as a mom, and I'm gonna try to do this without crying, but I think as a mom, when you have a child who, I mean, a grown woman, but you know what I'm saying,
Yes.
who is by themselves,
Yeah,
and whose one of her greatest needs is, to cuddle and have physical touch,
yeah,
to know that she had Belle, that
yeah,
was just always there, like, so
yeah,
much so that it was almost annoying because she just constantly wanted to snuggle.
yeah.
That was always very comforting for me as a mom. Not to mention, I just loved the dog. I mean, she was absolutely
Sure.
precious, and I loved it when she would come. And we went through the whole thing of her not, you know, n- not knowing us and not wanting to
Mhm,
trust us, and we had to win her over. And and then we did, and then she just adored us. So we were attached to her too. But I don't know, so just being quiet Sabbath morning was really nice, and it was just Chris
mm.
and I. And anyway, but my daughter-in-law had given me for Christmas the Chris Tomlin tickets, and
Oh,
we knew it was, we'd been planning for it and all that. And we thought, hey, this is really perfect timing because we can go over and maybe do a little dinner with Anna right beforehand, and,
mm,
kind of check in on her again. And
mhm,
so we
mhm.
were thankful for that. And anyway, it was a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. Chris and I put the top down on the convertible, and it was like 70 degrees or
Mm.
75 degrees. And I know this sounds silly, but I had a new shirt. I was just telling Kim about before we started recording, that I just really love, and it's so me. And I wore it, and I wore it with my favorite shoes, like the whole outfit.
Mhm,
You know how it just
mhm,
like all comes together, and it
mhm,
feels good,
mhm,
and you feel good.
mhm.
And anyway, and so we're driving over there and just enjoying the beautiful scenery and the air and all of that. And Chris and I are holding hands and talking. I mean, it's just really nice. But all of it was very quiet.
Mhm,
And I think just quiet is kind of what I needed, if that makes sense,
mhm.
because of the sadness, the weeds.
Mm.
Um, and then we go to the Chris Tomlin concert. And
And it's not quiet.
it's not even close to quiet. And we get into song number 2, the first 2 songs were just,
Mhm.
tear the house down. And don't misunderstand. I don't think there's anything wrong with a loud concert. I don't want people to think that that's the angle that I'm coming from. I think that, there is there is something really powerful and important and beautiful about um praising loudly.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've always been a big fan of that.
And
And
and in that moment, what was the
in that
experience?
moment, it just felt like th the clanging cymbal, and it
Oh,
just felt and I know it had to do with everything that what was going on because I have loved those moments, like,
sure.
I've had a very different reaction to it. But then I just kept thinking about Jesus and,
Mm,
he was born quietly.
mm,
Arguably one of the most glorious things to happen to this world, right?
mm.
And he chose for it to be very quiet. Of course, the angels did, cover the sky, but only a few people saw that, right?
Yeah.
And then the way he did his ministry was just I mean, yes, he ministered to crowds, but there was lots of just like the time he spent with the woman at the well and there just a lot and he would go off and be quiet and I don't he was certainly not fame seeking, not
Right.
nearly enough for the disciples and for the Israelites in general. I mean, he I don't know. And I guess then I was thinking about us getting together and talking and one of the elements of joy that I have always loved is that it can be a very quiet thing,
Mm.
that it can be loud and it can be bright,
Mhm, mhm,
but it can also be very quiet and very soft, but
mm,
still as profound. And I guess the whole day leading up to that moment when we sat down in the Chris Tomlin concert, it had been a very quiet joy, you know,
mm,
spending time with Chris, having conversations with my daughter because we were talking with her over the phone and, celebrate sort of talking about Belle and celebrating her in a way and, just having moments that were just really beautiful and really quiet
mm.
and then the contrast was
Mhm,
so great. I
mhm.
just man, I just yeah, I almost had a hard time enjoying it.
Hmm.
There you have it.
Well, it's I find that's coming up for you interesting. 'Cause on doesn't matter what day of the week it was. It was actually Friday. I was listening to a podcast with
Mhm.
Gretchen Rubin, and I think you have listened to her podcast, The Happiness Project?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
love it.
So she wrote a book
Yes,
called The Happiness Project, and then
yes.
her most recent book is about the 5 senses.
Mm.
And so when she was doing her experiment with her hearing, she actually took a weekend. She sent her whole family away, and she took a weekend where she didn't talk to anybody. Nobody talked to her. She didn't listen to the radio. She didn't listen to a podcast. She spent the entire weekend completely silent, in
Yeah.
quiet. Now, she said, like, it wasn't like this what, um when people say like meditation where you try to quiet your mind or
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm, mhm.
she was, and she's not a Christian, so it was not that. She wasn't trying to do that meditation where she was trying to quote unquote quiet her mind. Her mind was just as noisy as it always was. And what she and the podcaster, because he was also saying that he will take 20 minutes of quiet, he'll just sit in quiet,
Mm,
not
mm.
meditation or
Right.
what the world sees,
Just
but
silence.
just in quiet. And he will it is just as energizing for him as a nap.
Hmm.
because there's nothing coming at him, and I was just like, the only time I would say that that happens for me is in the morning when when I go and do my Bible study.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I'm not just sitting like, my mind is occupied.
Right.
It's
Right.
quiet, except for the
Right.
birds, and I still have my mind occupied
Mhm.
by study,
Mhm.
and there really is something about that.
Yeah. I j That's exactly what I think the contrast was so glaring, and
Yeah.
please, I cannot say enough that it had nothing to do with the concert.
Right.
Like,
Yes, right. It was right.
a time and place.
Yeah.
Just yesterday was a time that I needed the quiet,
Yeah.
and but I also think we are a society that doesn't like quiet.
100%. I have a hard time. Like,
Mm,
very hard time because I like to be distracted
mhm.
because the noise in my head is
Yeah.
so loud. And so I don't like to sit with that noise in my head.
Mhm.
So I keep myself distracted.
Which I think is true for so many of us.
Mhm.
And last night, when it struck me, I texted you and said, "How about we talk about this?"
Mhm.
To give you a heads up, and you were like, "Yeah, sure." And so then I'm sitting there with just you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
if anyone's ever been to a concert like that, you know what I'm talking about, the loudness,
Mhm.
and I kept hearing, "Be still and know that I am God. Be
Mhm.
still and know that I
That's
am
the
God."
scripture that came
You
to my head
know?
as well. Yeah.
"Be
Yeah.
still and know that I am God."
Yeah.
And I look forward to heaven where we are all rejoicing and praising him together,
Mhm.
when it is so incredibly like, I
Mhm.
believe that there will be moments when the sound is just unbelievable.
Mm.
Um, but how important is the being still? And, what you were talking about, having so many things going on in our head that we don't like, we'd rather be distracted. Because 'cause I'm
Mhm.
exactly the same way.
Mhm.
I don't care if it's a simple game on my phone, like a word
Mhm.
game, numbers game, or something on my phone, or a conversation with people or something, but it's
Mhm.
very hard. In fact, I keep saying, maybe I need to get away and have a weekend all to myself. And I'm not sure if I can do it.
Yeah. I've actually thought the same thing. I don't know if I could go by myself and just be in the quiet for a weekend.
Yeah, but I wanna try sometime.
So what do you excuse me. In that scripture, "Be still and know that I am God," how does stillness allow us to know God?
Is it that it let me add another question. Is it that it is
I
the
don't want another
stillness that
question, I want the answer.
I Well, but is it that, or is it that we know he is and we need the stillness to just bask in it?
So in the stillness, is there acknowledgement of him?
Like what we already know? Or is it, like you asked, something about in the stillness that helps us to know that he is? And here, okay, so on one hand, I'm just gonna speak for myself. When I have a hard time with the quiet, It is es it is especially challenging to spend time still and quiet when there are stressors in my life,
Mhm,
or old things are coming,
mhm,
old hurts or old wounds,
mhm,
or,
mhm, mhm,
and which all of us have, right? And
mhm.
when those things are front
Loud,
and center,
loud, mhm,
or I'm afraid that they haven't been front and center because I'm busy, but as soon as I'm quiet, then they may be there. And so I'd rather
mhm,
just stay busy so that I don't
mhm.
have to address them. And yet
100%.
there is a part of
Excuse me.
maybe a part of the being still and knowing that he is God is him asking us to let him show up and show us how he will handle, like, that he's got us even in those
Mm,
situations, you know? In other words,
mm,
be still and watch how I comfort you, or watch how I quiet your mind, or watch how I heal you.
mm,
Um, because, that he's not asking us to be quiet and still so we can sit there in agony.
right. I'm just I'm going back to what you said earlier about the woman at the well,
Mhm,
and then I'm thinking of the few scriptures we hear where Jesus went off to a quiet place,
mhm,
and I wonder if the quiet is so that we can commune with God. Because
mhm.
the woman at the well, there's no distraction, whatever. She's communing with God.
Right.
And when Jesus went off by himself in the quiet, it was specifically to
Right.
be with God
Right.
and be
Right.
re-energized and be empowered and be comforted, I would assume, and all those things.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's not just about quietness. It's about being with God. Because again, I'm gonna go back to my mornings.
Mhm,
For me, that's the best time. Like, it's almost like there's permission to be still in the
mhm,
morning.
mm,
So I'll make my coffee and then I'll go like now because of when the sun rises, I get up when it's still a little bit dark and I can't read. Like I can't see my Bible, I can't write my prayers, I can't do anything. And I'll
mhm,
just sit and it is quiet. And I
mhm.
listen for the birds and I watch the sunrise and then as soon as it's light enough, then I start.
Yeah.
And there really is something about that because I think, I mean, I'd have to think more, but I actually think that I'm communing with God verbally, like, or in my mind.
Right.
Um,
I think it is about being with God. I mean, I don't know what this sounds like theologically. I'm just questioning myself here for a second before I say it, but I just am not sure that when we are Christians in relationship with him, that he says he's always with us. Like
mhm,
he'll
mhm,
never leave us or forsake us.
right,
So when we're loud or when we're quiet, he's there.
of course.
So um so it is about that
So he's with us, but are we with
with him.
him? See, there's that acknowledgement of being like it's an intention in our minds. It's our experience says, "Yeah, I know that God is with me, and now I am with him." Like, that is
Yeah.
like, when you're driving in the car with your husband
It's well, we have to
and
there
you're
has to
holding
be.
hands,
Yeah.
you don't have to you don't have to necessarily have words of communication,
Mm-mm.
and you are with each other,
Yeah.
and there's something about that that is extremely powerful when you can be with someone and also not say anything, and you
And
know that you're together.
really joy producing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that there is, going back to what we were saying earlier, I think that there is something for all of us that that have a hard time with quiet. There is an element of fear
Mhm.
or an element of avoidance,
Mhm.
um, that maybe he's asking us to intentionally take the time to trust him in those moments. In other words, I need you to have times of quiet because I need you to have these moments of trust with me. It's kind of like little Belle, where she needed to, in her greatest fear and her, having been through a really horrible life, she had to have these moments with Anna
Mm,
where she was really, willing to accept Anna's love of her so that she could then kind of learn that this was what was going to be.
mhm,
And I think we need to have those moments with God where we're coming to him with all of our
mhm,
brokenness and willing to just sit quiet
mhm.
and let him show us how that is safe.
I you're very onto something about the safety of it. If I was to therapize myself,
Mhm.
what I would ask is, "What are you avoiding?
Right.
What are you so afraid of?"
Right.
And the answer is the loudness of my own thoughts
Mm.
and the pain that comes with those thoughts, whether it's something that's now or something in the past or some fear of the future. Um, and then, and then, therapist me would tell me, well, how about you just practice sitting with that and let that be, and don't judge yourself and don't try to fix it. Just acknowledge that that is what it is.
Mhm.
It's what it is. And by doing that, you will know that you're going to be okay. That you are safe, that your thoughts are not like your thoughts and emotions can't hurt you. Like they can't kill you. They're not they're not gonna harm you in any way. And on top of that, they're going to give you information about where you need healing.
So, one thing last night that I was looking at while I was in the middle of this very loud concert, which I find very interesting, was I was looking up, and I know we've touched on this before because this is one of my favorite passages, but then in Nehemiah, um, with the feasts and all that stuff going on, um, so the Israelites have come home, right? And from being captive for so long, and they've been generationally absent from they've been generationally captive. So because of that, a lot of them really never knew and don't understand life as Israelites without being in captivity. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so Nehemiah's been asked to they're supposed to be read, the law is going to be read to them, and they're mourning and they're just really experiencing all their issues in a powerful way, and to the point that they're really having a hard time. And uh so then it says this is chapter 8 verse 9, then Nehemiah the governor, Ezra the priest, and the teacher of the law, and the Levites who were instructing the people said to them all, "This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep," because they were. For all the people had been weeping as they listened to the words of the law. Nehemiah said, "Go and enjoy choice food and sweet drink, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. For this day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." And I've always loved this because I love the idea of good food,
Feasting.
sweet drinks. I know you're not a food person, but
That's
like
hilarious.
if you're telling me don't stress, don't cry and mourn, a pastry and a, you know, lovely drink will just, like a coffee or whatever, will be just wonderful and heal all kinds of things. But anyway, so I get that. But then it's, do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. And we hear that a lot. We know that, that very well. And then in verse 11 it says, "The Levites calmed all the people, saying, 'Be still,
Hmm.
for this is a holy day. Do not grieve.' Then all the people went away to eat and drink, to send portions of food, and to celebrate with great joy, because they now understood the words that had been made known to them." Um, I've read this so many times, and it wasn't until last night that I noticed it said, "Be still, for this is the holy day. Do
What
not
you're
grieve."
in chapter 8? I'm gonna look it up.
Chapter 8, and I was starting with verse 9. What does it say in your version in
Well well, it says be
verse
quiet,
11?
but I'm just curious to know because I'm picturing the scene, okay?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So, they're being told, "Don't don't mourn, don't weep, instead celebrate." That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
And then they're told, "Be still,
Mhm,
and then go celebrate." So to me, still is not about celebration.
mhm,
Still is like, don't say a word. However, in the context of this story, stillness is associated with weeping
mhm.
and not with celebration. So I'm on Blue Letter Bible and I'm looking up what Strong says. Okay. So the Levites are holding peace. I mean, one of the definitions for that Hebrew word where it says and the Levites quieted them.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. It's to hold peace, to like kind of like you would do with Charlie. It's like shh.
Yes.
Okay, shh. Okay. So then I'm going to go to the other word saying be still, same word.
Yeah.
It's a s it
It it is a
it's the same word.
so it goes on, um so on in verse 13, on the second day of the month, the heads of the families, along with the priests and the Levites, gathered around Ezra and the teacher to give attention to the words of the law. So they go back to reading the law. Like they take a break and they go back to reading the law. They found written in the law, which the Lord had commanded through Moses, that the Israelites were to live in temporary shelters during the festival of the seventh month, and that they should proclaim this word and spread it throughout their towns and in Jerusalem. Go out into the hill country and bring back branches from olive and wild olive trees and from myrtle palms and the shade trees to make temporary shelters as it is written. So the people went out and brought the branches back, and they made the shelters. Um, and then it says the whole company that had returned from exile, so all of them, built temporary shelters and lived in them. From the days of Joshua, son of Nun, until that day, the Israelites had not celebrated it like this,
Hmm.
and their joy was very great. But, all of this, the house, the building of the shelters, the whole process, them telling them to, be quiet. This is about celebrating the good food, the sweet drink, um, doing the festivals that God had laid before them before. It was all about coming back to trusting that God was with them.
Yeah.
All of it was to signal that God was with them, and, and who they were, and so I see as this it goes right with that, "Be still and know that I am God." All of these things, yes, the "be still and celebrate." I get what you're saying about that, but I do think what it is like it is in direct correlation to quieting the anguish,
Mhm.
quieting the weeds.
Mhm. Because God's got you,
Because God's got you, and celebrate the fact
and
that
then
God's
celebrate
got you.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, doing that, they just had such great joy.
It's that story is fascinating to me because so often we talk about repentance. We talk about how
Mhm, mhm,
we need to turn, we need to be sorrowful for our sin, turn back to God. And yet here is a story where they're reading the law, they're realizing how pitiful they've been in keeping the law.
mhm.
So it would make sense for them to lament and mourn. And yet God is telling them through Nehemiah, no, 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 no. No, because God is so happy that you are here and He's going to keep you safe. He is with you and you don't need to lament. We're going to celebrate.
Mhm. But
That's
isn't
just fascinating to me.
it is, and I've always loved it because interestingly, because I've always looked at it from the celebration standpoint. Everyone knows I would rather celebrate than almost anything else in the world. And in many ways, last night, was about celebrating at the concert. And yet I just needed to be quiet. But I'd never seen in here where the portion of, be still. And I do
Mhm.
think it is about quieting the angst.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
That's hard to do.
yeah.
So instead of quieting our angst, we distract ourselves from our angst. I mean, we do. It's
No,
like what?
listen, I can't seem to ever get this thing settled today. I keep feeling like I'm off center. Yes. And it seems if I think for everyone out there and for certainly in my life and I'm sure in yours as well, it seems like anytime you start getting some of the things quiet and then there's more.
Mhm.
I saw something on social media today that said, maybe it was even you, I don't know, but anyway, something about our value because the devil and God are both chasing after you.
Yeah, no, that wasn't me, but I have seen that too. Yeah. How
Yeah.
valuable you are
Yeah.
because they both want you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess the main thing is just for me is last night realizing the importance of some quiet.
Mhm. Yeah, there's been a couple of evenings, where Tim and I have purposefully had conversations with each I mean, it's not totally quiet, but, like, there's no background noise, there's no music, there's no
Right.
TV, there's no nothing. Um, how nice that is.
Mhm.
How really nice that is.
Yeah. I know we've talked about it on here before, but I am I've got to find a time to try a personal getaway. See if I can do it. If nothing else, then for an active experimentation.
So, if you were to do that, would you bring stuff like, would you bring a book? Would you be like those, cloistered nuns that did nothing but pray? Like, what would you do? Like, if I was to do it and I was to, like, determined to not have a podcast on, not listen to music, not turn a television, like, it was just
Right.
me and whatever, I would probably bring, um, maybe my watercolors, or I would
Mm.
do some writing. I would probably bring a book or 2 and just take the time, be more contemplative.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of drawing. That you just made me wanna go now. Um, but I was thinking, at least make sure I have my Bible with me, of course, and, I would have to take my phone and then just commit to not being on it,
Yeah, yeah, that
but for
for sure.
safety
Well,
reasons.
sure. Yes, exactly.
Um, but that's another thing for me. It's just I can I can let fear get the better of me
Mm.
sometimes, and I
Mhm.
need to, so it would definitely be an exercise in quieting that. That is for sure. Just being all
Mhm.
by myself, no
Mhm.
matter where you are. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I'd probably be fine if I was like in a hotel or someplace like that, but that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like
Yeah, I don't think a hotel would feel quiet.
no.
It
So
would
I
need to
think like
be yeah,
somewhere in the woods or, in a cabin, or
yeah.
I'd prefer on top of the mountain,
Hmm.
but
Not at the
or by the
beach?
lake,
Not at the beach?
maybe. I don't know of a place by the beach that would feel like I was away.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, but I'm also not a big fan of in the woods either. So, yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting.
I'd probably feel I mean, physically, I'd probably feel safer on the beach than I would in the woods
Yeah,
just
probably.
because of too many stories.
What's That's so sad,
It's ridiculous. It's really
It's
ridiculous. The only place I'll walk by myself is when I'm on Grand Manan Island.
mm,
I won't even walk on my own well, I mean, if I was to go down the road, whatever. But, like, in the morning, I wouldn't take a walk down my street because 'cause I've got this ridiculous fear that just grips me, but I would say on Grand Manan is probably the quietest
mm.
that we are is when we go there, and it's wonderful. It is wonderful.
Maybe, Kim, we need to take a trip and do this together, but not like have separate rooms,
That would be interesting.
like two cabins
Yeah.
or two yurts. Yurts don't feel secure enough.
I need a shower. I don't if I can shower in my yurt, okay.
All right. Well, coming soon, podcast about Beth and Kim's adventure of
Yeah.
aloneness together.
I lo No, I don't think that'll work.
This whole topic though just keeps coming up for me. So I just keep wondering because I know we've talked about it on here before. And then I know that recently the one of the pastors, because we talked about it, one of the pastors that when I was at a convention talked about, the importance of quiet,
Hmm.
um, for restoration,
Mhm.
the importance of that. And
Mhm.
it just keeps coming back. So I feel like it's definitely a thing. Like you know, it's a thing that I need to
It's a
address.
thing. Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Hmm.
and there has to, it's, I also, I kept telling Chris last night, maybe it's just my age, but it's not just my age. I think, I think what it is it's me wanting to make sure that I'm not stuffing things anymore. And I think part of that is
Mhm.
age, a willingness to sort of
Mhm.
address the issues.
Mhm.
And I know that this is
Mhm.
something, but boy, I was feeling it last night that I needed it.
Mhm.
And it's ironic, it was during a very loud concert. I will say as part of this, and I don't mean to get all judgy because that's not it at all. Um, but I do find it interesting that we as Christians like to be we glorify being loud
How do you mean?
about what we believe
Okay.
and about like we see being quiet about that as being weak or unwilling to be bold.
Mm.
And we, there's no just sometimes I feel like we just need to quietly come alongside people
Mhm.
and it's okay to just do that.
Mhm.
And um
Yes, it
and not
is.
being what?
I was just thinking of a recent, um, criticism I got because I was having a conversation with someone, who's making some really bad choices, and
Mm,
I didn't correct them.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, that we have this arrogance, dare I
Mhm.
say,
Mhm.
that sometimes I guess last night I kept feeling like when I was contemplating Jesus and his life, that there was a graciousness and a quietness to his life that spoke volumes
Mhm.
and drew people to him.
Mhm.
And the Pharisees were very loud
Mhm.
and very obnoxious
Mhm.
and very directive
Mhm.
about what was right and what people should be
Mhm.
doing. And I just feel like perhaps there is also not just personal healing, but there is healing that we can help assist others in having by just quietly coming alongside them and
Yeah.
not trying to correct them all the time.
While you were talking, I was thinking that's safe. Jesus was safe
Yes.
in his quiet, peaceful manner that made him safe.
Mhm.
So, in order for us to be safe people for others, we can we can do that. We don't we don't need to tell them they're doing anything wrong. We
Yeah.
we can just come alongside them and be a safe person
Yeah.
and let them do all the talking. And just be a place, I mean, sorry, I'm a therapist, just hold space for them. And that
Right.
requires us to be quiet.
Yes.
If you're gonna hold space for somebody else, you have to be quiet.
Yes. So,
So there.
there you have it.
I gotta
There's
book an Airbnb now.
there's there's joy in quiet and joy in
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for you personally and for coming alongside someone quietly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, Kim, in the last
Okay.
24 hours, what something has brought you joy, laughter, or a
I'm
smile?
trying to think. Oh my word. It's been a very, like the mundane normalness of life in the last 24 hours. So,
Oh,
it's then that's not bad.
yeah, I
Like,
was gonna
it's
say,
just
isn't that joy right
yeah,
there?
there's been nothing particularly. I mean, I'm it hasn't happened yet, but my kids are coming over for supper tonight. It's our Sunday night thing, um, which is joyful,
Mhm.
when they come. So yeah, I guess it's just had a nice workout. The sun is shining. I'm
Mm.
gonna be painting shutters this afternoon. I have yellow door on my house. There's just
Oh,
it's just
Kim,
been
I was
real
so
joy.
excited to see your yellow door. Oh my
Yeah.
word.
My back door too. My back
You
door is
should
also yellow.
always have a yellow door.
Yes. Yeah, and then I'm gonna be painting my shutters a bright, teal. Like, it's gonna be a little pop.
That's awesome.
And I wouldn't do those colors in my on my walls in my house because it
Right.
would be too much. Though Cameo would, she likes the bright colors. Um, but yeah, on the outside of the house, just a
That's
little
awesome.
wow. So that brings me joy. It's not happening yet. It's what I'm gonna do later, but that does bring me
But that
joy at the
brings you
thought of
joy,
doing.
even the anticipation of things brings joy.
Exactly, exactly. So you
So at the risk of sounding very shallow, I mentioned it earlier, but I found a top
mm,
that a shirt, a blouse that I just absolutely love. And I've been really struggling recently. You all know I've been going through, menopause, and as of next week, I will be officially in menopause unless something happens in between now and then. So we'll
wow.
see. I did we'll talk about it at another time, but I did um anyway, I've been taking steps to try to help out with some of the symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. We do have a lady coming on to talk about, that's coming up. I think we're going to end up doing several different podcasts on the subject in different areas. But anyway, to all the men that are listening, you should listen too, because if
Yeah.
you've ever
If
known
you're married.
someone or you are married, you
Yeah.
will experience it one day. So hopefully, if you're so blessed to be around a woman who's going through it. But in any event, with that has come some weight gain that has just really been very discouraging for me, because I've worked so hard to be more healthful. And with that often comes times when you just are not happy with what you're putting on yourself, because you just, anyway. And I found a blouse and I treated myself to it for my birthday. And I have to tell you, it just brings me so much joy. It is black, which but it has pearls all over it, all on the edges. And but part of it is it just fits really, really well. And I was wearing it yesterday when I went out to spend time with my husband, and I felt beautiful and comfortable. And it was the perfect thing to wear for the temperature that it was outside. And with all of that, it just was so joyful to feel confident and like myself. And anyway, so yeah, it was a very joy-filled time for me. And I know it's silly. It's just a blouse, but
I don't think it's
that is.
silly at all.
So
I think there's a big part of our wiring as women, um, feeling beautiful. I think it matters.
yeah, I do too.
Maybe we
And
should talk about maybe we could do our next podcast on that, or have we done it
beautiful.
before? Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. That's going to be one of the next ones that
There you
you
go.
have to look forward to. Anyway, but yeah, that was my moment of joy. So, all right. Well, I look really red today. I think it's just the lighting. I don't think it's that I'm red. You look all nice and glowy. I look like, I don't know.
I think you
Anyway.
look fine. I have my hair back because I was working out.
So one of the other things, just side note, I played in the Mount Pisgah Academy golf tournament, and I played with my husband and with Tank Brooks and Mark Waugh, who are friends of ours. And we shot 10 less strokes than we did the year before.
Good for you.
Yeah, we did pretty well, and it was
That's
very
fantastic.
exciting. So
Good stuff.
we've played golf. We play golf on Thursday, and then we played the tournament on Friday. So 2 days in a row. I'm feeling it.
I bet you are.
And it was wonderful. So that was a huge thing too. But
Good stuff.
anyway. All right. It's so good to see you, Kim.
It's lovely to see
Thank you
you.
guys for listening, and
Yeah.
sorry for the delay, but that's life, and we will get back on schedule and go out and experience some joy.
Please do.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We would really love to hear from you. So please find us. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Joy in the Weeds. You can also email us. Our email address is joy@carolinasda.org. That's joy@carolinasda.org. Now, we hope that today, as you navigate the weeds, you will also hold on to moments of joy. This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.